All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really cool methodology that's all about bringing some structure, some predictability to the, let's face it, often chaotic world of marketing.
So, before we get into the nuts and bolts, let's kick things off with a scenario that I think a lot of us can relate to, right? It's this huge disconnect between the big, grand vision and, well, the actual day-to-day reality of getting things done. So picture this. You're sitting in an all-hands meeting. The CEO gets up on stage, totally confident, and says something just like this. The whole room is just silent, stunned. I mean, you're a software company, right? How in the world do you go from writing code to, space travel? It just leaves the team completely lost, wondering, okay, how are we supposed to do that? And look, this isn't just some made-up story. A Forbes study found that a whopping 80%, 80% of CEOs just don't trust their marketing departments. They really don't believe marketing can connect that big moonshot idea to actual tangible results. That's a massive problem.
And you know what? This kind of disconnect, it has some serious real-world consequences. We're talking frustration, missed goals, and a crazy amount of turnover. I mean, just look at this chart. The average time a chief marketing officer stays in their job is only 3.5 years. That's the lowest in the entire C-suite. That's a huge red flag that something is seriously broken.
So this all brings us to a really critical question for any company that actually wants to grow. How do you bridge that gap? How do you take a huge, bold idea and turn it into a concrete plan that everyone on the team can actually understand, follow, and, get behind?
Well, this is exactly where a structured framework, a real methodology, comes into play. And look, this isn't about stifling creativity. Not at all. It's about channeling all that great energy through a clear, repeatable process that actually leads to success.
Okay, so let's get into it. The FAPI framework, at its heart, it's a system, and it's designed to do two things and do them really, really well. First, it captures that big picture strategy from the leadership. And second, it translates or decodes that strategy into clear tactical actions for the team that's actually doing the work.
The whole thing is built on 4 distinct modules, and they have to happen in order. It's super logical. You've got frame. That's the strategy. You can't build a plan without a strategy, right? Then comes architecture. That's the plan itself. You can't execute without a plan. Then you get to production, which is the execution where the team gets to work. And finally, and this is so important, you have insights, the feedback loop. You have to learn from what you did. It's a sequence. One step builds on the next.
All right, so let's zoom in on those first 2 modules, frame and architecture. I want you to think of these as the blueprint phase. This is where all the thinking and planning happens to create a rock-solid plan before a single dollar is spent on actually doing anything. The analogy here is perfect. It's like building a skyscraper. You would never, ever start pouring concrete without first picking the perfect spot, the strategic location, and then having a super detailed architectural blueprint, right? Of course not. Well, in this framework, the frame module is your strategic location, and the architecture module, that's your detailed blueprint.
So the frame, that's your foundation. And this is set by senior leadership. These are the big, mission-critical, non-negotiable decisions. Things like, who are we actually competing against? Who specifically is our audience? And what's the master budget? Because, getting these things wrong at the start is incredibly expensive. So this step locks it all down in what's called a strategy brief.
Okay, so once that's locked in, architecture comes in and makes that high-level strategy real. It basically answers the question, all right, so how are we actually going to do this? This is where you get into the nitty-gritty. You define the media mix, the key performance metrics, even the team structure. All of that gets documented in the marketing playbook, and that playbook becomes the Bible for the entire team.
So, once that blueprint is approved and everybody's on the same page, then the project can move into the active phases. This is the build part, where we start producing things and, just as importantly, learning from the results.
Now, the production module. This is where the plan really comes to life. And a great way to think about it is with the Dragon Boat Festival analogy. It's all about teamwork in perfect sync. You've got all these rowers, a steerer, a drummer, and they are all working together in perfect rhythm. If one person is off, the whole boat slows down. Every single person has a vital role.
And this is where that analogy gets super helpful for clarifying who does what. The plan master, that's your drummer. They're setting the pace, keeping the rhythm for the whole project. The production execs are the rowers, heads down executing their specific tasks. And leadership,
They're the steer at the back, making sure the boat is pointed in the right direction, staying on course with the overall strategy.
And then we get to the last piece, the insights module. And this is absolutely vital. This is what stops the plan from just being a static document you never look at again. Without this part, you're basically flying blind. Insights is all about creating a constant feedback loop. You take the data, you analyze it, you figure out what worked and what didn't, and you turn that into actionable recommendations. It's how the team and the whole strategy gets smarter and better over time.
So that's the framework. But it kind of begs the question, right? Why does having a rigorous process like this actually work so well? What's the magic in focusing on the system and not just the end goal?
Well, think about the legendary football coach, Nick Saban. He built an absolute dynasty on a philosophy he simply calls the process. And his whole argument is that you don't win championships by staring at the scoreboard. No, you win them by focusing on and mastering every single small, controllable step along the way. Every drill, every play, every single day.
And that just perfectly captures the main takeaway here. When you adopt a process-oriented mindset, you're doing so much more than just organizing tasks. You're creating real alignment because everyone knows the game plan. You're building accountability because everyone knows their role. And that predictability, that's what transforms marketing from this chaotic, reactive thing into a powerful, strategic driver of actual business growth.
It's a really powerful idea to chew on, isn't it? Could a focus on process, not just the outcome, be the key to unlocking your marketing's true potential? Instead of just aiming for the moon, maybe the secret is to perfect the thousands of little steps it takes to build the rocket in the first place. Definitely something to think about as you look to bring some order to your own marketing world.